Good evening and welcome to Destino USA. I am your host, Raúl Mas. This is our coverage here on ENTV USA and also on Cachita Latino Radio 154 on Sirius XM of the upcoming election. And I am joined by some fantastic individuals here in the studio. I have here to my right, Ángel Zayon, a well-known periodista and newspaper reporter here in Miami, Florida. And to my left, I have the very talented Cachita Lopez. Now, you may think that the studio is named after her, but that's not the case. Her name really is Cachita.
It sure is.
Cachita is a very popular name in Cuba, and it happens to be the nickname of the patroness saint of Cuba, La Virgen de la Caridad del Cobre. Cachita shares the same name. She is a very talented musician, right?
Yes.
You love jazz.
I love jazz.
But you also describe yourself as an average American.
I am your average Joe or Joanna, however you want to say, your average Jane.
But with very strong political convictions, and it's going to be fascinating talking to her as a relatively young woman, right? I mean, you're still very young.
You look very young. Not relatively. I am.
You are
young.
young,
Okay,
absolutely.
let's correct that.
Angel and I, we're in a different category, I'm definitely over the hill, okay? I'm ya el viejo cagalitroso aquí de la película.
No.
And we have Angel here who's sort of like, he's got that hip sort of, look. And, even though he's getting up there, he's got the gray hair and stuff. Looking very good.
Thank you.
Anyway, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, the election. We're 5 days away from November 3rd, a very consequential election. We have two very different candidates running for office.
Yes.
We have Joe hiding in the bunker, hiding in the basement, Biden, who believes that, it's this dark, gloomy world where COVID-19 is still out there killing all of us, and we have to sort of hunker down and be ready to shut down the economy any minute. And then we have President Trump, who, thinks he's Superman, recovered from COVID, is out in rallies all over the country, and wants to reopen this economy. We saw some numbers this morning that came out. I don't know how many of you have focused on this in the audience, but I certainly shared it with my guests here. Third quarter GDP numbers, the U.S. economy up, I think, 7.5% in the third quarter of this year. Showing, as Trump has mentioned, that the economy is in fact recovering, even though those of us that are here in South Florida know that the cruise line industry is still shut down, the hotel industry, the restaurants are still shut down. Where do you see this election, Cachita, where we are right now, 5 days before the election? And what do you think this news about the economy, is it really going to favor Trump? Is it too late? Is the news of the rising cases in COVID going to help Biden? Is it all irrelevant because so many people have voted? Where do you see it?
I think with a 500,000 COVID spike number that we have nationally, I think that's going to alert a lot of things. Some European nations are starting to shut down, and that's going to scare the average worker. Because at the end of the day, these corporations have continued to make money. All these big guys have continued to make money. And the one that ends up losing, in my very personal opinion, is a little guy, the average guy. So it is scary. I'm in an industry where my livelihood has been completely destroyed.
Right.
As hundreds of thousands of others, in this great nation. That we see a 7.5 increase. I think that's fantastic. We are starting to recover, but I think we really have to be safe.
Well, but in your industry, you're in the music industry, right?
But,
the whole tourism thing has really hurt you dramatically.
But tourism is a huge industry for our country.
Right.
And
in South Florida.
And it's millions and millions, not just of people, of families that are being affected by this. I see the positive thing of opening up our economy because we need to open our economy. We need to be able to make money. We need to be able to provide for our families and not be waiting on handouts to be able to survive and not have to stand in a line to receive food. But honestly, if our families were as good as some people are saying, we wouldn't be having all these free food distributions because people would be able. I mean, these are things to consider. The middle class is one thing, but a very large portion of our community doesn't even fit the bill of being middle class. Right. We have a huge portion of our community that
they're living paycheck to paycheck.
They are living paycheck.
And there's no more paychecks these days.
Exactly.
And there's been no more stimulus checks.
Exactly.
So,
which in reality, $1,200 to last you over 8 months.
No, it's not nearly enough. I mean, it's
not nearly enough.
It was a nice sort of shot in the arm in April, May, but I mean, it's been long spent since then.
and I've spoken with a lot of friends and a lot of family, and a lot of folks are kind of like in the standstill. Where we're saying it's not about being Republican, it's not about being a Democrat, it's about being an American,
right,
and seeing where do you see America in the next 4 years, regardless of who becomes the president. This election is going to determine greatly our prosperity and how long it's going to take us to recover. But we can't just say, okay, well, some people survive it, other people are going to die, and just open the economy. We can't be so frivolous with people's lives.
Right.
That's where I stand.
Okay.
As your average
I think it's a
person.
great perspective. Ángel, where do you see things?
I agree with a lot of stuff that Cachita just expressed here now. Pero bueno, hablando aquí un poquitito a lo Cachita, en español, creo que estamos definitivamente, como muchos lo entendemos, en un momento histórico en esta nación. Estamos algunos viendo que probablemente perdamos todo lo que venimos a buscar, aquellos que venimos de países totalitarios donde no tenemos absolutamente ninguna de las oportunidades que nos brinda esta gran nación, y otros pues creen que están estancados en un régimen ya que va camino al totalitarismo. Estamos en una campaña constante de desinformación. Total. Y una campaña definitivamente...
Pero déjame pararte, Ángel, porque a mi juicio, okay, y entiendo lo que me estás diciendo, pero yo creo que ¿cómo decirte? Esa frase de autoritario, lo que sea, que le han tratado de ponérselo al presidente Trump, a mi juicio, hoy día que realmente se merece esos títulos son CNN, MSNBC, los New York Times, Washington Post, que básicamente han tomado una posición a favor de Biden,
a eso me refiero, y me permite, con lo de la campaña de propaganda y desinformación.
Perdón.
Sí, es una campaña de propaganda y desinformación que lo que busca es desviar la atención a temas que no son importantes, centrarnos en situaciones inexistentes. Se generaron actos de violencia que lo que hacen es atemorizar a la nación de que si continuamos en una administración que no puede y que, según lo que dice la otra parte, está estimulando precisamente este tipo de actitud por parte de una comunidad determinada, que entonces estaríamos condenados a continuar viviendo en eso durante los próximos 4 años. Definitivamente ha habido, pues, desde el comienzo de esta administración, un enfrentamiento directo con la prensa. ¿Qué sucede? Y alguien recientemente me comentó, el presidente se ha atrevido a señalar al sistema electoral de este país como uno fraudulento. Pero ¿qué es nuevo? Si aquí siempre ha habido fraude. Lo que lo ha habido en menor cuantía probablemente, o no detectable. Sí. El hombre lo ha enfrentado y es momento de hacer cambios en este sistema que verdaderamente velan y cuidan a una democracia auténtica, donde no voten los muertos, donde no te anulen con una estrategia de una patraña un voto tuyo, total, porque tú pides una boleta ausente y van y te dicen que la tuya se perdió en el departamento de elecciones y no ha habido suficientemente control. Yo me he quedado sorprendido, no ha habido suficientemente control, y si te piden, para que lo sepan algunos de ustedes que votan ausente y le dijeron a la campaña contraria, lo siento, no puedo votar por tu candidato porque estoy votando por fulano y está votando ausente porque en tu listado está que pediste una boleta ausente, capaz de que te pidan entonces otra boleta porque la tuya se dañó, y en lo que va y viene esa boleta, porque lo hacen en un tiempo, un periodo de tiempo estipulado, entonces tu voto queda anulado. Yo me he quedado impresionado con la campaña del presidente Donald Trump, cómo monitorean con las redes digitales y con correos electrónicos que tu voto sea contado. No es ni siquiera de que vota por nosotros, es que usted todavía no le han votado, y tengo emails, su voto todavía no ha sido contabilizado.
A mí me llega constantemente.
No, tu voto no ha sido contabilizado. Si ya lo hiciste, entonces marca aquí dónde fue que lo hiciste. Porque tú hablabas antes de que comenzáramos el programa, de hasta, y creo que también en la entrevista que nos trae más adelante, Raúl, de que hay probablemente hasta 1 millón de boletas que no sean consideradas en esta elección, que es histórica desde antes de que ocurra el próximo 3 de noviembre. Porque en el voto anticipado hemos tenido una participación abrumadora, sin precedentes.
66 millones en este país.
Creo que, una vez más, a todos nos importa conservar lo que hemos logrado. Esta ha sido una administración que se ha enfrentado a lo que muy pocas administraciones se han enfrentado. incluso la injerencia de esta pandemia a través del virus, que vino realmente de la China, en un momento de verdad coyuntural, como dijeran en otros gobiernos que buscan señalar el momento preciso para que algo ocurra. Vimos actos de violencia por igual, vimos desafíos y hemos visto a una generación desafortunadamente adoctrinada durante años por una izquierda en escuelas, universidades y en grupos sociales que lo que buscan es desestabilizar para reformar lo que nosotros vinimos a buscar, que es una verdadera democracia y en la que creo que hasta ahora estamos viviendo.
Cachita, tú y yo hablamos de eso antes del programa,
Sí.
de que tú realmente piensas que le estamos prestando demasiada atención en esta elección a las personalidades de la elección, o sea, Donald
Totalmente.
Trump versus Joe Biden,
Claro.
y realmente no le estamos prestando atención a lo que nos afecta a todos, que son las políticas.
Las pólizas que apoyan estos políticos.
Que cada uno de ellos van a implementar.
Claro.
Por ejemplo, a Donald Trump lo han criticado fuertísimo porque no ha presentado un plan bien desarrollado de cómo realmente va a enfrentar el tema de salud, de cobertura, etcétera, etcétera. Por otro lado, Joe Biden está hablando de que no, que vamos a subir los impuestos, un chorro de dinero supuestamente contra las corporaciones y los multimillonarios, pero realmente los analistas dicen que eso no es posible porque no existen suficientes millonarios en los Estados Unidos para absorber eso y realmente financiar todos los planes que pretende promover Biden. Y encima de todo eso que ya tenemos 30 trillion in debt. O sea, lo digo en inglés porque a veces...
It's true. And, it's not just about the promises, what anyone can consider empty promises on either side of the board, right?
Right.
Because President Trump also made a slew of promises that he hasn't been able to follow up on his economy, talking about bringing down our U.S. deficit, eliminating federal debt, which we have not done. He promised to boost wages of Americans by $4,000 annually. And the only growth that we've had has been due to inflation. When you really sit down and look at the numbers.
I don't know about that, but...
Yeah, but companies and corporates have continued to go side of a great profit. Would say also, let's see, he promised a tax cut for middle class Americans, and it really benefited that 1%.
Listen, I think
the middle class has paid more in taxes
I don't
under
know.
the Trump administration than we had under previous
I'd like
administrations.
to see your sources for that. We can talk about that later
Yeah, we
on.
will.
But I think that, look, the reason this economy did as well as it did during the last 3 years prior to the pandemic is precisely because the president came in. We had one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world, if not the highest corporate tax rate in the world, prior to Trump coming into office. Cutting that tax rate, okay? More importantly, I think, eliminating these countless regulations that have been on the books forever that have really stymied economic growth. I think those things really benefited all of America because what ended up happening, and I saw this during the Obama-Biden years. I would go on TV programs and, the host would tell me, well, why isn't, if the president is pumping all this money into the economy, how come we're not seeing the economy taking off the way we expected it to be after the stimulus of Biden and Obama? And I remember that during that period of time, during that 8-year period of time, one thing that I kept seeing over and over again was the number of U.S. corporations that were sitting on huge, amounts of cash. Okay, well, we got to go to a commercial break here. We'll be right back. We're going to listen to an interview with our friend
Spencer.
Our Tom Spencer. We ran out of the clock here. I apologize for that. We ran a little bit over time, but we're going to talk to Tom Spencer, an attorney who's warning us about what's going to happen on November 3rd, and then we'll be right back.
Ay, Dayami, si yo te estaba buscando en mi vida. Me dijeron que tú eres la mejor para cotizarme un seguro para mi carro.
Claro que sí, aquí en Diamond Insurance te vamos a hacer una cotización que se ajuste a tu bolsillo y a tus necesidades de seguro.
Ay, mi vida, y con lo caro que están los seguros en la Florida.
Han subido, pero un poquito, pero no te preocupes, nosotros aquí tenemos muchos años trabajando todo el estado con muchas compañías.
Ay, eso es lo que yo necesito. ¿Y qué tengo que hacer? ¿Cómo compro mi póliza?
Nada, con una simple llamada, un mensaje de texto, un email, cotizamos tu póliza completamente gratis y en minutos, porque somos la manera más fácil para asegurarte.
Dayami, aquí, entre tú y yo. ¿Tú sí me vas a contestar?
Claro que sí, nosotros siempre contestamos.
Ay, ¿verdad que un diamante es un diamante? Con Diamond Insurance me siento asegurado.
Segura que sí.
Understanding your microbiome can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Presidente Supermarket, donde su dinero rinde mucho más.
Arroz Mahatma de grano extra largo, 20 libras por $5.98. Limones verdes, 20 por $1. Cañada de res entera o en mitades a $2.28 la libra. Jabón de baño Palmolive Naturals de 3.5 onzas, 3 por $1. Papel toalla Only Home Evo Beyond, 6 rollos por $2.98. Rollos de papel de baño Classic, 4 por $1. Leche condensada Nova de 13.8 onzas a 78 centavos. Coditos y pene rigate Appetit de 350 gramos, 3 por $1. Malta Vampur, lata de 11.2 onzas a $1.98 el 6-pack. Cerveza Cortés, botella de 11.2 onzas, $7.98 el 12-pack. Y café Cachita y café La Rica al mejor precio del mercado. Presidente Supermarket, donde su dinero rinde más.
Antioxidants are essential to protect your cells against the damaging effects of free radicals. Purmeric by Longevity harnesses the power of nature to combat free radicals by delivering a potent boost of antioxidants known for their incredible healing properties. Sourced from certified organic turmeric root, Purmeric contains 95% curcuminoids, the active compounds that quash free radicals. Turmeric has been used in Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine for thousands of years to promote both heart and brain health, as well as its powerful anti-inflammatory properties. We've also included a botanical blend of phytonutrients that include flavonoids, carotenoids, and sulfides. These natural, plant-based chemicals are powerful contributors to overall health and well-being. Purmeric, the organic antioxidant supplement from Longevity, formulated to promote optimal health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Estamos aquí en Hialeah, en la tienda de la 1165 West y la 49 Street, con los mejores precios, la mejor calidad, la garantía 100%. Acuérdense, los teléfonos son 786-683-2267 o 786-703-5500. Si quieres customizar una pieza o personalizarla, te esperamos en cualquiera de nuestras localidades. Acuérdense, lo esperamos. Green Más Joyería.
Mi gente, esto sí es café. Además de bobería. Ay, el café Cachita es como la miel de abeja. Quien lo prueba, no lo deja. Deja que el cerro tenga la llave y que otros bailen al ritmo del pilón. Yo tengo a Cachita, directamente del sembrador a tu taza de café. Sabroso. Es mejor para compartir. Ay, Dios mío, no es chisme mío, mi gente, es la verdad. Café Cachita. Ay, Cachita, qué grande eres, mi madre.
Joining us now to talk about the upcoming election and the legal battles that are likely to ensue once the polls close is Tom Spencer. Tom I've known for a great number of years. We're good friends. Tom has been very involved throughout his entire life in the election business, if you will, ensuring that the electoral count is correct. Tom was instrumental back during the I guess it was, when was that, Tom? 2000?
2000.
2000, that's right, man. 2000, that was Bush Gore, correct?
Correct.
And you were one of the people that were there counting the famous hanging chads in West Palm Beach and making sure that the election wasn't stolen from George Bush.
Right, and in Miami, and I testified in the Supreme Court of the United States with regard to it.
Fantastic. So I'm glad you mentioned that so the people that are watching this program know that you actually bring some chops to the table. You know what it is you're talking about.
I try.
So listen, you made a comment online that caught my eye, that Democrats are getting ready to litigate Florida. Tell us what you know and what you expect.
Well, what I know is what I've heard from media friends, that the Democrats have already tipped them off that under certain circumstances, they are going to file litigation. And I'm used to it because in every other year and in every general election, they always file lawsuits. And they it usually has a pattern, and we usually know, just about where they're going to file and what the allegations are going to be and why they're doing it.
Well, listen, if it makes your job any easier, Tom, I'm getting a sense down here in South Florida, I know you're in North Florida, that it's going to be very, very tough for them to contest Florida. I can tell you that here in South Florida, in Miami-Dade County, your old home, the Miami Herald is basically reporting that Democrats are lagging in terms of their turnout at the polls. And you know as well as I do that this is a very important county for the president. He's got very strong support among Hispanics here in Miami-Dade County, I think also among African Americans. And the sense that I'm getting from, again, my backyard here in South Florida, as well as what I'm hearing from other parts of the state. I had a woman on the program here recently who was the chairwoman for the Florida Young Republicans, has spent a lot of time coordinating the ground game that the Republicans have, particularly in the Tampa area. She told me that they're very, very confident that Florida is going to be in Trump's corner come November 3rd. So hopefully they're going to have an uphill climb if they're starting to contest this election.
Well, I'm a bottom line election lawyer. I come from sort of a situation where the presidency of the United States was determined, predicated upon 537 votes out of millions. So I don't assume anything, and I listen to everything that you're listening to, but I know that people have got to get out the vote. Right. And that's what it all takes. So if there is an enthusiasm poll or index, I think the president wins that hands down because there's just a limited amount that the former vice president can do in the basement, and in the the small gatherings that he has gotten, even with the former president Obama going out and speaking to him at drive-in theaters.
Right.
So I just think that we've got to watch it, and for the Republican Party and side, we have got to get out that vote. We cannot assume we can't leave one single vote on the ground. Now I can tell you that as of today, there are 1 million mail ballots that have not been returned in Florida. 1 million.
Wow.
And so that means that ballots which have been received by voters have not been returned. Now, no one knows, and no one's going to tell who those voters are yet.
What is the deadline here in Florida for receiving those ballots?
Election day, election night by 8 p.m.
So basically, we're sitting here, it's Thursday, right? So if these ballots aren't returned in the next couple of days, they don't go counted?
That's if they are not in the election department by 8 p.m., 7 p.m. on November the 3rd, they are not valid legal ballots.
Okay. And I assume the Democrats are going to attack on that front first and foremost.
Exactly. I was about to say that is normally one of their attacks. The day after the election, they come swarming into the canvassing boards, and they blame it on everybody else but the voter, and say that it's unconstitutional, that this is vote suppression, that this is racism, that this is intentional negligence by the elections department. It's everybody else's fault, and that they want all of those votes counted. And they'll continue to make that point in the newspapers, on TV, in the streets, whatever. It's their marketing tool for their political party. And so it's come to be expected by me and other Republican lawyers that this is just normally what they do. The other thing is that they do is with regard to voting on election day at various precincts, they usually claim that there are long lines, and that at 7 o'clock on election day, the deputy clerk of each precinct is supposed to get in line, and he or she is the last person in that line. Nobody else is permitted behind him or her. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of voting for that particular precinct. And I can tell you that virtually every election they go into court and they want that line extended. And by the way, only in the precincts that are Dem precincts, not in every precinct. Right. They only want them in Dem precincts extended.
Right.
That's just what they do. When that relief is usually denied by courts, they scream that it's voter suppression.
Yeah. Listen, it's so the rules basically don't apply to them, correct? I mean, that's kind of their strategy, right? I mean, listen, one of the things that shocks me is, and not shocks me, that I mean, I find it incredulous that they're making these claims. I mean, we started early voting, I think, over a week ago. There has been plenty of time for people to get out there and vote. I voted here at the Coral Gables Library. Tons of people out there voting in person, but they also have, a spot where people can pull into the parking lot and drop off their ballots, so they don't even have to depend on the Postal Service, because the Elections Board has determined and has set up an official, ballot collection point there. So, look, I mean, at least here in Miami-Dade County, there is no excuse whatsoever for anybody to claim that they could not get their ballot in on time, or they couldn't vote in time. There have been plenty of opportunities to vote in time in this election. And like I said, I mean, obviously you're seeing it reflected in these national figures where you've got, whatever the number is now, 50 million people have already voted Well, gee, I mean, doesn't that tell you that, people are having plenty of time to go out and vote? If half of the people that voted in 2016 have already voted, are we supposed to wait indefinitely for the stragglers or what?
I can tell you, 40 years of experience, there's never enough time for Democrats in an election. There are never enough voting opportunities, and they always use it as a marketing ploy for their next election or for their political party.
Right.
Because you got to remember that their principal marketing format for elections is to claim that Republicans are suppressing the vote and are engaged in racism against Democrats, which is absolutely not true, and it's offensive, but that's their marketing scheme.
Yeah, that's been their mantra for years and years, right? I mean, that we're trying to suppress the vote with things like asking for IDs, asking for people to, vote by election day and giving them weeks to do so. It's still all racist, and it's still all, the deck is stacked against them.
Yeah, and the truth is, Raul, that it was true 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was vote suppression and there was racism in the United States and particularly Florida. When I first came here from New York, there was racism, there was vote suppression, but it's no longer there. It's it's a criminal violation to be engaged in it, and it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
People get along.
Yeah.
We love each other.
Right.
And blacks, whites, Hispanics, etc. We're all one.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that is the continuing and the principal mantra of the Democratic Party today, because we could make so much progress together.
Yeah, it's a shame. So listen, I'm hoping that it'll be an uphill battle for him here in Florida, particularly because so many votes have already come in. And what I indicated earlier, I think it's going to be a stretch for the Dems to claim that South Florida has not been fair. I think we got a pretty good elections head here in Miami-Dade County, and people have had plenty of time to vote. And the fact of the matter is that at least, again, this is what the Miami Herald's reporting, not Raúl Mas. The Democratic turnout is lagging in Miami-Dade County. And I don't know if with, just a couple days left to go before Election Day, whether they're going to be able to make up that deficit. So I think Florida's leaning towards the president. I'm increasingly confident of that. I think Texas is also going to go for President Trump. And I think the real battleground is going to take place in the Midwest.
Well, thank God we're not in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
because just a few minutes ago, there were 452 ballots which have not been delivered to voters in Pennsylvania.
Wow. Okay, so listen, and like you said, if you look at the Bush-Gore, 537 votes determined that, correct?
Correct.
Just really drives home the point how important every single vote is in this election. Obviously, the country is very polarized at this point. There are people that are solidly in the Biden-Harris camp. Trump has obviously his strong base of supporters. Very few undecided at this point. I don't see them really swaying this election one way or another. So it's going to depend on how successful the Democrats are in getting their voters out to the polls and Republicans out. Now, the other thing that gives me confidence about Trump winning Florida is the fact that apparently the GOP has a much better ground game here in Florida. They've actually registered a heck of a lot of new voters, and I don't think the Democrats are making the same effort or have done the same thing.
Well, let me tell you that Mini Mike has poured $100 million into the state of Florida for exactly that, the EDO operations, ground operations. And so in terms of money, they're far, far outspending the Republicans. But the Republicans have got passion, and
Right.
they understand that, and Hispanics understand that this is the most important election in our lifetime.
No question about
Because
it.
these people are serious about turning this into a Venezuelan, Cuban, socialist country. And particularly Hispanics understand what that means for them.
No question about it.
So I'm hoping that every single Hispanic who's registered gets out and votes and helps us defend our country.
I agree with you, Tom. But listen, it sounds to me like you're going to be very busy one way or another come November 3rd, November 4th. So I'm hoping you're getting a lot of sleep between now and then, getting all rested and relaxed, putting on your gloves and getting ready for that legal boxing rink that's going to begin immediately following the election. If not in Florida, someplace else.
It's the least I can do for that flag.
Absolutely. I agree, man. Red, white, and blue. I think you and I both agree we both bleed red for that flag. So thank you, Tom, for what you do. Thank you for defending the United States, defending our electoral system. And I wish you luck on Election Day and the days thereafter, because like I said, I think you're going to be very busy. Thanks for being with us on the program, Tom.
It's an honor.
Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, Tom, thank you, man. Again, apologies for the late advice and the sort of running around here, but we got it done.
Not at all, brother.
I appreciate it, Tom. Take care.
Okay, pal. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Super Greens is a one-of-a-kind blend that's loaded with hard-to-find nutrient-dense superfoods. We've used what we've learned from our more than 20 years working with mineral-based nutrition to create one of the healthiest, plant-based nutritional products available. Each superfood was carefully selected so that it complements and enhances the others, helping to maximize Super Greens' nutritional power. Next, we added a specialized fermentation technique to increase the bioavailability of each superfood. Finally, we put in powerful probiotics and enzymes for added digestive support to give you jam-packed nutritional support. Youngevity Super Greens, the highly alkalinizing super supplement that helps balance your body. It's the superfood-powered way to get more organic fruits and veggies in your day, all in just one scoop. Check with your Youngevity distributor to learn more.
Nos encontramos aquí en Hialeah, en la tienda de la 1165 West y la 49 Street, con los mejores precios, la mejor calidad, la garantía 100%. Acuérdense, los teléfonos son 786-683-2267 o 786-703-5500. Si quieres customizar una pieza o personalizarla, te esperamos en cualquiera de nuestras localidades. Acuérdense, lo esperamos. Grimá Joyería.
As you age, the collagen that helps keep your body in optimal physical condition breaks down faster than your body can replace it. But now, it's easy to give your body the healthy dose of collagen it needs with Collagen Creamer from Youngevity. It's a delicious vanilla-flavored coffee creamer that's packed with 7.5 grams of bovine-sourced collagen peptides. Youngevity's Collagen Creamer uses 2 types of collagen, to better supply the protein needed to repair and strengthen the connective tissue in your body. It also supports healthy hair, skin, nails, and even bones. We've also formulated collagen creamer with MCT, healthy fats that the body is able to absorb and convert into an instant boost of energy. Add it to coffee or one of your other favorite beverages when you need it. Longevity Collagen Creamer. Support for healthy connective tissue and more energy, all in a tasty vanilla-flavored creamer. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate. Paying attention to your overall health also means focusing on the command center of it all, your brain. Factors like stress, lack of sleep, poor diet, a sedentary lifestyle, and the bombardment of pollutants and toxins can all diminish brain and neural functions. When was the last time you concentrated on your brain health? Synaptive by Longevity is a cutting-edge, unique brain support supplement that delivers powerful nutrients both immediately and throughout the day. Its anti-stress nutrients provide instant brain-boosting support that helps with mental focus and cognitive activity. To enhance your body's neuroprotection, Synaptive's full-spectrum antioxidant blend targets 6 major classes of free radicals that inhibit brain function. This powerful nutrient combination also promotes healthy blood flow to the brain. Synaptive, optimal antioxidant neuroprotection and support for a healthy brain. Now that's something to think about. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
La gente tiene cada ocurrencia. Me han mandado a limpiar la dulcería, la mejor dulcería, me dijeron, vete por la mejor dulcería de Hialeah, M.A.M. Vete a limpiarla. Aquí no hay nada que limpiar. Aquí está tan rico todo que la gente no deja caer ni virutica. Toda la virutica va para adentro. Óyeme, y fresquito. Mira, los pastelitos guayaba, fresco. Lo de queso, fresco. Las empanaditas, fresca. El pan con bistec y churrasco, fresco. ¡Fresco es usted! ¡Piérdase! ¿Cómo que fresco? ¿Cómo que fresco? No me importa. ¡Piérdete! ¡Dale! Oye, que Alejo le quiere coger el trabajo a todo el mundo, chica. Aquí trabaja Maricusa, la pastelera, que es la que limpia aquí, no tú, chico. M.A.M., la mejor dulcería que tiene Hialeah. 445 West 29 Street.
Welcome back to Destino USA. I'm your host, Raúl Mas. I hope you're enjoying this program in Spanglish, as you've probably seen. We started our first segment in English. Angel shifted us to Spanish. We went back to English, then to Spanish again. I hope you guys speak Spanglish, because if not, we are really messed up here. Listen, you just saw a great interview with Tom Spencer. Tom Spencer is an attorney who's been very involved with the Republican Party for many years. He was a key attorney during the Bush-Gore legal contest that happened after that election that was eventually decided by the Supreme Court. Tom Spencer was very involved in that, and he gave us some warnings about what to expect in this coming election. But before we go there, right before we shifted to that segment, I was mentioning to Cachita that one of the things that struck me during the Biden-Obama years was the number of corporations that were sitting on the sidelines with huge sums of money that they had not deployed. And I think one of the reasons why Trump has been successful during these first 3 years was because he did away with a lot of those regulations. He made those corporations that were setting up in tax havens in Ireland and someplace else come back to the United States, invest that money in the United States, and I think that's one of the reasons why the economy did much better during these first 3 years. It wasn't just the tax cuts. It had a lot to do with the regulations. But shifting back to what Tom Spencer just said, okay? So you saw the interview.
Yes.
Tom is very worried that the Democrats come November 3rd are going to come out swinging, complaining about, fraud here and there. They closed the polls too early. The mail-in ballots never got there. What do you think? I mean, you think this is a very serious threat to the outcome?
I think this is a very serious threat to the outcome. Although I have seen, at least from the Democrat side, they've been pushing a group called Souls to the Polls. And they've been very proactive in their community.
Souls to the polls.
Souls to the polls, to get people out to the polls to do early voting. I was looking at the numbers today from the Department of Elections for Miami-Dade County, and actually, Democrats are in the lead by 83,000 votes, which is, I know we have more
There's more Democrats registered than there are Republicans.
than Republicans, but I expected, honestly, to see a little more from the Republicans. At least from what I've seen from for those of you who are tuning in from anywhere that's not South Florida, let me just give you a little side note on Cubans. We are a passionate people. We are a very passionate people, and we are loud, and we do all these caravans, regardless if we can vote or not. We do all these caravans, and we go out, and we come out with the signs and stuff. So I was anticipating to see a much higher vote on the Republican side.
Right.
And the Democrats are in the lead in Miami-Dade County by 83,000 votes as of this morning in mail-in ballots and early voting that has been counted, and as well as the state of Florida. In the state of Florida, they're in the lead by 204,000 votes, which kind of, it's interesting to see, because if you listen to the Republicans say that Trump has Florida. You listen to the Democrats say Biden has Florida. But then there's also this huge chunk of independents, and you still have those million votes that are out in the air that we don't know what's going to happen. And then you have all of us that still haven't voted.
Yeah.
Because you have a nerd like me that'll actually sit down and see, well, this circuit court judge is up for re-election. What's his track record? What's her track record? And that's the one reason I haven't been to vote yet.
That's marked.
I voted. Have you voted?
No, not yet.
Not yet. So I voted. So here we go. 1/3 of the people here have voted early. Okay,
Yeah.
I voted Republican, obviously, but these two, I don't know what their party affiliation is.
Well,
but they haven't voted.
I am a registered Republican, but I tend to be more. I consider myself more of a moderate.
Okay.
I tend to be more right-wing when it comes to economy and foreign policy, but I tend to be more Democrat when it comes to anything social. So, as I said, I have not gone and cast my vote yet.
You haven't decided yet?
I have decided.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to leave that to your imaginations. A ver, what do you think I'm going to
When is it that you're going to go vote? I'm going to go do it on Tuesday. I like to go to the...
You like to go on the date? I don't have time for that on that date.
Now, Cachita, I know that your mom is an incredibly powerful influence in your life.
Oh, for sure.
Has she voted?
Of course. My mom was like the first.
Absentee,
my mom's in
no?
New Jersey.
Yeah.
No, my mom.
in New Jersey, okay.
Yeah, in New Jersey. She did early voting.
Good.
Oh, you don't understand. My mom is out with the Trump hat, the Superman Trump shirt. My mom is intense. My mom is intense. But another great thing that I feel that represents this great nation is the fact that, unlike Cuba and unlike so many other countries that suffer under dictatorships,
Venezuela,
Nicaragua, it's actually okay to have a different party affiliation, to actually sit down and have these sorts of dialogues.
Well, I would agree with you, except I think this time around, at least in my lifetime, Cachita, es muy diferente. O sea, la cantidad de gente that have been, particularly I think, the Republicans that are intimidated and do not want to basically come out and say that they are, Republicans
Can I
and
just
Trump.
ask? I'm going to go off script. I'm going to go off script and ask you about what are your thoughts on the Lincoln Project?
The Lincoln Project is basically the what's the woman's name? The spokeswoman, the wife, right? The husband of the woman who was the my God, man!
It's a group of Republicans that are voting.
It's a group of Republicans, but
it's
led by the husband of the blonde lady that was President Trump's spokeswoman. What's her name, man? My mind just went blank here. You know who she is. She was up who ran the campaign. Okay?
Yes.
That is a marriage that I don't understand, man, because she is a diehard Republican and her husband is you know, a pinko Democrat communist, okay? And he supposedly is leading this party, this Liberty Project, okay? I don't buy it, man. I think there's a lot of there's very few Republicans that are out there. There's this Never Trumper movement. I think that they're trying to revitalize it. I don't think it's going to have an effect on the election.
You don't?
No. Where do you stand? I mean, what's your view? You know, what Tom Spencer said in that interview. Are you worried about those million votes that are still out there that haven't been counted?
Not only that, yo creo que vamos a tener una crisis constitucional en este país. Yo creo que se va a extender a una situación de mayor envergadura que la que vivimos en la elección del 2016.
¿Con violencia?
No tanto con violencia, sino con demandas y contrademandas que probablemente extiendan la certificación del colegio electoral para tener a un presidente antes del 20 de enero. Ya certificado. Y si eso se extiende, bueno, todos sabemos que la Constitución dicta que probablemente el presidente de la Cámara sea quien se convierta en el presidente de los Estados Unidos, and who's the Speaker of the House.
Sí.
Entonces
Increíble,
tendríamos a Nancy
Qué
Pelosi
pesadilla,
de
qué
presidente
pesadilla.
de los Estados Unidos.
Hasta ahí yo también puedo decir que pesadilla. Ahora, una pregunta. Do you think that if Republicans win, if President Trump gets reelected, if Biden gets elected?
Te lo voy a contestar antes que me lo pregunte. Yo creo que ninguno de los dos que pierda va a ceder de inmediato. Is that what you are
Yes.
asking me? No, I don't think. Yo no creo que
Entonces,
ni el presidente actual, el presidente Donald Trump, esté listo para aceptar una derrota sin antes corroborar de que hubo una elección limpia y transparente. Lo va a aceptar, así como tampoco lo aceptará la
Entonces, we're in for a hell of a show, man.
No,
It's gonna be great.
that's exactly what I'm saying.
This is
We're
gonna
gonna
be
have
I gotta
without a
believe
president.
with 60 million votes already, you know, counted, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I get a sense that, I mean, look, you know, you can criticize Florida all you want and stuff, or debate whether it's, going in favor of Biden or going in favor of Trump. I happen to think that Trump is in the lead and by a pretty hefty margin, but that's my own personal opinion. And I think, for example, here in Miami-Dade County, you know, our elections here have been run pretty well for some time. We've got an elections
fair.
department here who's
Pretty
actually
streamlined, yeah.
who's pretty streamlined. So I think, for example, in Miami-Dade County, which is the biggest urban area of Florida, we're going to know pretty early on, you know, what those results are and which way we're leaning. And I think importantly, what you mentioned, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Miami-Dade County has been really purple/blue in recent years. And precisely, you know, we do have more registered Democrats than we have registered Republicans, which is why I think you're seeing some of those numbers. But Trump doesn't have to turn Miami-Dade County red. He just has to have enough, you know, enough Hispanic votes in particular, okay? Enough more Republicans coming out to
But it
vote.
doesn't really matter si lo vamos a saber temprano o no. Creo que lo que realmente importa es que se certifique el resultado de esa elección y siempre van a haber argumentos de las dos partes que puede que extiendan hasta las mismísimas cortes de Suprema del Estado y Suprema de la Nación cualquier resultado que signifique los votos suficientes para llegar a los 270 necesarios.
Ahora, la otra cosa también, a lot of people are banking on Trump winning Florida because of the Cubans, because the Cuban vote is a very important vote. Pero in the last few years after Hurricane Maria, there was a huge influx of Puerto Ricans that tend to vote more Democrat in Central Florida. So that's another big chunk of Latino voters that some people aren't taking into account. That's a big chunk. We're saying, I was reading that in Cuban Americans, 71% go for Trump, 23% for Biden. But Puerto Ricans, it's almost reversed, where you have 66% that vote for Biden and 23% are going to be voting for Trump. At least that's what they've said in their counts. And that's a big chunk of Latino voters in Florida as well. That can make a serious difference because although they voted and they weren't voting in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
You know, after Maria, when they relocated to Central Florida to the Orlando Kissimmee area, that's
there were how many of them? Because
I believe it was over 2 million Puerto Ricans after Maria.
From Puerto Rico to
Central Florida, después de Maria.
That number sounds very high to me.
Yes.
You know, Central Florida has always had historically a large Puerto Rican population, which is why they resettled there after Maria, right? But those Puerto Ricans that have been in Orlando, you know, for a long period of time, I can't speak to their family members that joined them recently, but those Puerto Ricans in Central Florida actually came back in the early 70s when they were building Disney World. You know, the construction folks came to build, help build Disney World, and they stayed. And they're now second, third generation, Puertorriqueños, pero they're much more focused on the economy and other
more
issues.
Conservative end,
much more conservative, I think, than what people sort of give them credit for. Now, obviously, and I'm very aware of the migration after Puerto Rico. In fact, I saw in particular, a lot of, I'm very involved with the U.S. Army. We had a lot of our Army recruiters, we had to get them off of the island. We brought them here with their families. And a lot of them relocated in Orlando, not just because of, the fact there's a large Puerto Rican population there, but because Orlando has so many empty hotels and resorts and stuff, it's the only part in Florida that could really accumulate a huge number of people without sort of batting an eye, because they had so many empty hotel rooms and stuff all the time. They got such a huge capacity. They put them up there. Now I don't know how many of them have stayed. A lot of them I think have returned to Puerto Rico. Some of them may have stayed, but we'll see what happens. Look. Shifting gears here for a second. We got about 2.5 minutes left here. When are you planning? When are you finally planning on voting again? You're going to vote this weekend? You're going to wait till Tuesday?
No, I might be voting tomorrow. I might be voting tomorrow.
Okay, good. So,
when I finish my homework.
Would you say your mind is made up at this point, or you're still?
My mind is pretty made up.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you what that is, because obviously that would be inappropriate. But how many other people do you think? You think there are a lot of young people that are still like yourself, that haven't made up their minds yet? I mean, that are still on the sidelines?
No, the majority of the folks, at least that I've spoken with, are very clear as to who they're going to be supporting.
And that ese mundo en lo cual tú andas, la farándula ahí, the music.
La farándula, la cosa, you'd be surprised.
Are they all like liberal Democrats and stuff?
No, that's a
misconception.
That's a total misconception. I just participated in a huge show called Free Cuba Fest, and it looked like a Trump fest.
Really?
Honestly. Where it was a ton of Cuban artists.
No, I didn't
Sí,
know.
el Free Cuba Fest fue un festival espectacular.
I'm sorry, yes, about in Key Biscayne.
Sí.
Okay, correct, I'm sorry, yes.
Yo abrí el show con un tributo a Seria, and it looked like it was a Trump parade.
Wow.
Honestly,
exactly.
There's a huge chunk of the younger Cubans that are very aligned with the Republican values.
Wow.
There's a very, very large chunk. Well, now, some of my...
encouraging for me.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very encouraging. And I think it's great to see how those values are passed down from generation to generation. You also have had a huge group of young Cubans that have gone here in the last, let's say, 5-10 years that know what the communism is and can't align themselves with any sort of anything that might resemble that. One way or the other, that's the way that they perceive it, and that's how they express themselves.
Ángel, los venezolanos, nicaragüenses, los colombianos, ¿votan por Trump o votan por Biden?
I think they're divided, but
yo creo que los venezolanos van a Trump.
El mayor de los apoyos it goes to Trump, but honestly, it's not what I was expecting.
Sí.
Honestly, yes. I have seen the Biden campaigns too and caravans. Maybe those people don't vote, but they have them there too, supporting them.
Yeah.
Bueno, vamos a ver. Mañana seguimos con este debate aquí en Destino USA. Stick with us. I hope you enjoy the conversation that we're having. We'll have some more of it tomorrow. Y vamos a ver lo que pasa dentro de 5 días. Nos queda muy poco. Si no has votado, por favor, sales a votar. Es un deber cívico que tenemos para ir a las urnas, votar. No deje que ese voto se pierde. Y gracias, Ángel, gracias, Cachita, por esta conversación. Y continuamos aquí en ENTV USA y Cachita Latino Radio 154. Stick with us, Destino USA.